Hello, and welcome to Get Recc'd. I am your host, Stephen Falgout.
And I am your other host, Louis Falgout.
We have a funny episode for you today. An episode all about stand-up comedy. Louis, why don't you tell them what this show they're listening to is?
Yeah, so this is Get Recc'd. That's the name of the show. You probably didn't know that. And this show is a recommendation swap. What that means is at the end of each episode, Steven and I, we are brothers, as you could probably tell from our last names, and we recommend things to
Oh,
each
wait,
other.
what? We are?
Oh, shit. Steven didn't know.
Shit.
I fucking revealed
Oh,
the
no.
secret. I'm so sorry. Wow, how could I do this? Well, this podcast might be a little awkward from here on out. But anyway,
Illuminati finally got to
the
us.
two friends recommend media to each other, albums, movies, whatever the fuck. And then in the next episode, we each review the media that was recommended to each other. And this episode, we actually had a special theme, which was comedians, stand-up comics specifically. When we do theme recs, we try to recommend stuff to each other that has that's in a similar format, and that is what we did this time. And I think, if you're willing to, we can begin with the thing that you recommended to me, Stephen.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
We're jumping right in there. Usually we have a fun goof, a fun bit, but we wanted to class up our podcast a little bit. No more jokes allowed. This is a very serious review.
The No Fun podcast.
This is the No Fun podcast, a very serious review of the Blue Collar the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, featuring four just wonderful stand-up comedians: Jeff Foxworthy, Bill Engvall, Ron White, Larry the Cable Guy. I also recommended to Louis a more recent Netflix special, which also has some of the Blue Collar crew. References to Bill and Ron, but in that Netflix special, only Jeff and Larry actually show up. So, Louis, why don't we start with the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, the movie original motion picture soundtrack?
Yeah. So, I will say that my previous knowledge of this, I've heard of the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. I know who Bill Engvall is. I know who Jeff Foxworthy is. I know who Larry the Cable Guy is. That's about the extent of it. Who's the other guy? Ron White?
Ron White, yeah.
Ron White. So, this album here, it took me a while to actually find it, and sadly, I could not listen to one track on this album. It was a cover of something by fucking Keith Urban or some shit, I don't even remember. But I was able to listen to every other track, including some of the covers. There were actually covers of Sharp Dressed Man, a country cover. It was truly awful. And there was something else I don't even remember. It doesn't matter. It's not important. I was there for the hilarious comedy of these four genius comics right here.
Do you like the little added benefit of this being recorded in Phoenix, Arizona?
It was, that's a home city, so that was very nice.
A nice track about Flagstaff, which I thought was
an
interesting bit.
So this disc opens on Ron White. He is the first comic to come out. He was so entirely unremarkable that I kept forgetting the guy's name. He had this hilarious...
He does have a very unremarkable name, too.
Yeah, for
very
sure.
Very forgettable name.
He had this hilarious bit about being naked, eating Flamin' Hot Cheetos, was it? Was that the thing? Pretty sure that was it.
Yep.
It was really funny. I guess instead of going through each comedian, which I will still kind of want to do, but first thing I want to say is this is the worst. This is disgusting. I hated this. I wanted to puke. I wanted to die multiple times at different intervals in different amounts depending on who was performing. These are some of the worst comedians I've ever seen. Their jokes entail telling stories that are only amusing to people who maybe really enjoy, like, Thanksgiving family dinners. I don't know. A lot of jokes about rednecks and hillbillies and beer and stuff like that, except that nothing was... It was doing this in a very clean way, which really makes little sense, honestly, because the topics they're talking about don't belong in that setting anyway. Like, these aren't really family-friendly topics, but they make them family-friendly. I mean, you know, and not to say that they don't tell jokes that are a little racy, but they're always, like, cloaked in... Or they're typically cloaked in, what's the word I'm looking for? Euphemism? I'll let Steven say something before I kind of go through each comic.
Yeah, so I want to say a little fun fact. I don't know. I'm not 100% positive, but Dad and I went to go see this tour in Phoenix. So there's a good chance.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a good chance that this recording was the recording that Dad and I were at.
In 2003?
So what I'm saying is, I'm famous, basically.
Yeah, because you're in the Blue Collar Comedy Tour the movie parenthetical original motion picture soundtrack.
Yeah. I'm not 100% positive. 2003 seems a little early.
Yeah,
but very well could be.
It could be.
Yeah. So just to talk about the overall structure of this specific one. Each comic has a stand-up routine, and then at the very end, they all come out together, and they kind of do like a shared routine. They take turns again telling stories, but they're all on the stage together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I might have laughed at 2 jokes on this thing.
Steven, that's a new world record.
I know. I want to say either Bill Engvall's, I think the one where he was talking about how he has all girls and the amount of times that he's like they have emotions, right? Which is funny. Women
get it?
Women
They have emotions.
My wife, you know what I'm saying? And he talks about how one of his girls came crying about how she got locked out of the club, and then the joke was that it was actually his wife that was saying that. That one made me chuckle slightly. The big thing here is that within their individual routines, they don't really do what they were known for, and then at the end, Bill Engvall does his "Here's your sign" bits, and Jeff Foxworthy does his "You might be a redneck."
Don't even get me started on that.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about "You might be a redneck" jokes?
So "You might be a redneck" jokes. He says it. I would give an example of one, but I forgot all of them. He says, like, maybe he'll say, like, something that we all know about, like, say, quarterbacks or McDonald, I don't know, whatever. And then he'll say, if you hear that and think this, and it's like some stupid pun about that name, then you might be a redneck. And it is the equivalent of a knock-knock joke. Can I just say that? Am I right? Do you disagree with that?
Yeah, for sure. Even the "Here's your sign" jokes. "Here's your sign" jokes
are almost just as bad, although I wasn't, like, dying inside when he did those. I just wasn't laughing. Bill Engvall is the best comic of the 4. I did not laugh a single time at his routine, but he didn't just give me... He didn't repulse me as much as everybody else, who... Again, they just tell stories that are moderately comical at best. You know? Like, and I'm not saying they don't have punchlines, but their punchlines are so just milquetoast. It's like... And that's when they're not outwardly annoying. Like, on this special, far and away, the worst comic was Larry the Cable Guy. Do you agree with that?
Oh, hands down.
Okay. Larry the Cable Guy's "Get her done" line is
Get her
the most
done.
obnoxious thing, and he does it so much. I thought it was just a meme about the guy. It's not. He says it after like every joke, and the thing that annoyed me the most is when he said this thing, and he said this twice or 3 times throughout the thing. He said, "Hey, I don't care who you are. That's funny right there. That's funny." He did that like 3 times after he told a really awful joke, and then he hammered it into the ground by suggesting that everyone should laugh at that joke.
To which I did.
Oh.
I said, yes, sir. I agree.
I didn't laugh until he said that.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I thought, yeah, you're right.
That is funny. Yeah, hands down. I think maybe we'll get to it in the next special too. But yeah, hands down. And the other thing at this point, it's like all I could think about was this man has played Tow Mater in the movie Cars.
Yeah.
And so like when he's talking about like edible underwear and shit like that, I was just like, good job, Disney.
Yeah. I said far and away, but honestly, I think Jeff Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy were competing as to who could be worse in this special. I will say that. I do think.
How did you feel about redneck words?
I felt hollow.
Where Jeff Foxworthy would say a regular word, but say it in a punny way.
Yeah, and then the audience would erupt in. I don't know how people were. I don't want to knock people who find this funny. But I just personally did not understand how people were, like, erupting in laughter at all these people's jokes. Is it, like, part of me thinks they were drunk. That's probably a big part of it.
Yeah.
But also, I think, when you go to a comedy show, I do think you loosen up, you know?
Yep.
I'm not willing to rule out that if I were at this show, I wouldn't have laughed once. I probably wouldn't have laughed much. But I may have found it more funny than I did just being at home. I'm willing to say that. But it doesn't matter which situation you're in. This is an incredibly unfunny comedy album. It is incredibly unfunny. So unfunny. We have Machamp in here saying that it's so funny it turns around and becomes funny. I won't go that far, but I could see how you could get that out of this. It is truly that unfunny where it can turn around. I mean, certainly it's easy to mock these comics, you know. They are the most stereotypical comics where they get up on stage and say, the other day, my wife did this. Yeah. A lot of jokes that revolve around the differences between men and women.
Yeah, super tropey.
Yeah, it's just... And when they all got on stage and started doing their bits, the only thing I'll say I liked about that is that I enjoyed it seemed like a genuine friendship between these 4 people. I don't know how genuine it was, but it seemed genuine, you know? Which in turn I think made the comics more likable. I still didn't like them at all, but I think
the other thing that I'll mention, I think this is the other thing I laughed at. They had kind of funny callbacks to each other's routines when they were all on the stage. And I think at one point that made me chuckle a little bit.
Well, they kind of made like a mockery of each other's routines and like tried to do each other's routines. I remember that.
Yeah.
It just... Yeah. This is really, 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 really awful.
But here's the thing I will say about that specifically. That specific part. So Bill Engvall, you mentioned it. I think he was the best comic on this album. He did actually make me laugh, like I said, like once or twice. The others did not. And then they get to his segment when he's all on stage, and everyone else derails his segment. It's not a good segment. I don't think the Here's Your Sign jokes are funny.
No.
But they completely derail his segment, so he doesn't even talk in it, basically.
Yeah, it's true.
Larry the Cable Guy goes, I'm gonna get her done.
Yeah. And every time he says get her done, it's a guarantee to get the crowd to cheer for him.
Get her done.
It's just really sad that he has to do that. Yeah, I'm finished talking about this one if you are. And I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, this thing's crap.
Yeah, so that's basically
really
my
bad.
final thoughts. This is utterly awful. I hated this. And I just feel bad listening to it. My sympathy alarm goes off, and I'm not sure why. But yeah, I'm gonna give this a 2 out of 10. And
it is the most white toast.
Oh yeah,
Like, it is just, yeah.
But it's even worse than that. Like, it wasn't totally inoffensive. I was offended by how bad it was. That's the thing. And so, anyway, yeah, 2 out of 10. Would I recommend this? Absolutely not. Steven, how about you? What's your score? Would you recommend this?
I'm going to give this a 3 out of 10. Only because this deserves a better rating than the next thing you're about to bring up.
Oh, do you think so? Okay. So we will. I'm assuming you don't recommend this as well.
I do not recommend this.
Because
no.
I don't think that either of us found this ironically funny, right?
No, I did not. Now, I will say I used to like this group. Like I said, Dad and I went to it, but I mean that was so long ago that actually one of the reasons why I recommend this is I was like, I wonder if I would still find this funny. Mm-hmm. The answer is no.
Good.
Absolutely not. This is not funny at all.
All right, so we'll move on to.
But if this isn't funny,
look at the picture. You can't see it just yet.
If this isn't funny, well then welcome to this. This bullshit. Also, look how old that was the first thing I noticed. Look how much older they look here than that picture we just had up on the screen.
I think it's. I'm gonna struggle to keep myself from laughing at the fucking
his get her done hat.
The name of the special is We've Been Thinking.
Get her done.
Okay, so I'll begin. This special was in 2016. I guess it was like a comeback tour for these two. I think Steven and I will disagree on one thing here. It's not a big disagreement. It's not a big disagreement.
I don't know if it was a comeback tour. It was a Netflix special, but yeah, I think it kind of seems like it because they both kind of went their separate ways and started doing other stuff. So Larry the Cable Guy did a whole bunch of commercials for a while, was in Cars. Jeff Foxworthy was in that Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader show, as well as some other game shows. So I think from the stand-up comedy angle, I think it was kind of a comeback.
That's what it seemed like. I think Steve and I might have one very minor disagreement. It's extremely minor because I don't think we disagree on the quality of this special, but I personally thought this one was ever so slightly more tolerable than the Blue Collar Comedy Tour one. And on top of that, I think that last time Jeff Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy were competing to who could make me hate them more. This time, I definitely preferred Larry the Cable Guy. I hated him too.
Wow.
I preferred him to Jeff Foxworthy. Oh, yes, I did. Because Jeff Foxworthy's bit was appallingly terrible. It was inexcusably bad. He had gags about how when you go to the airport, you fart. And he walked across the stage going... That is the level of comedy that Jeff Foxworthy brought to this special. And on top of that, was this was the one where he told the story that somebody else told him about getting their nipple bitten off. Right? That was this one.
No, that was in the last one.
Oh, was it really? Oh, yeah.
This
was the fucking one. This was the fucking one that genuinely repulsed me.
Yeah, no, I can't believe that you actually like Larry the Cable Guy more here because as bad as Jeff Foxworthy's routine was here, Larry the Cable Guy's like actually genuinely repulsed me. It was incredibly racist. It was like I was starting to be like, oh man, dude, like you are getting a little too far here. Really? This was the one where I really sat and I was like, God, this guy is Toe Mater in the child's movie Cars.
I don't remember. I guess I was zoned out because I don't remember him saying. I remember him saying some like dumb joke about global warming or something. I don't remember him.
Oh no, it was racist. Oh God, it was bad. Like okay, I'll do the bit for you or what I remember of the bit. He's talking. I think it's like first of all, I think it's him saying, I don't care who you are, that's funny right there. And then he says, this is how you would say it in Arabic. And he goes like,
and
he's like, this is how you would say it in
tongue
Nigerian.
Clicking.
And he starts doing clicking noises.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. No, but believe me, I hated his bit too. I didn't laugh once. But he didn't say get her done after every line. I think that helped. But I think
he just had it on his head the whole time.
I know, yeah. I think what dragged Jeff Foxworthy down this time is that he did this extended bit about kidney stones.
Yes.
And
for a long time.
All this did, it wasn't funny. It was just a story about a kidney stone. There weren't really any jokes. I mean, I guess there were. He was telling it in a humorous fashion, as you might say. I used air quotes.
He asked some pregnant ladies if it was worse to have a baby than it was to have their kidney stone.
Yeah, which I guess that's a joke. But for the most part, he was just telling this story, and all it did was make me terrified of having a kidney stone in the future. I just felt bad. I was like, this is upsetting me. I almost couldn't take it. I was like, I want to shut this off. It was getting that bad. Look, I'm not saying gross out humor is inherently a bad thing, and I think that maybe what he might have been trying to do was like extending it for so long that it becomes funny, but he wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't detailed enough to even work from that angle. You know, it was just like a story about getting a kidney stone and how horrible it was to have a kidney stone. I just found that terribly unpleasant, I guess. I don't know.
Here's the one thing that I'll bring up from this bit, which I was like, really? And maybe my interpretation of it was wrong. But at one point, so this routine was recorded in 2016. At one point, Jeff Foxworthy says, I decided not to put in my bid for presidential nomination because I'm not qualified, not that you have to be anymore.
Right.
And the audience erupts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there thinking, and now that I think about it, I guess in 2016, depending on when this was recorded, we could have been down to the primaries, right?
Yeah, or maybe even the actual like election.
Yeah.
But it was clearly a reference to Trump.
Because the audience erupts, right? And I was like, it has to clearly be a reference to Trump. And I'm just sitting there like, how are the people watching Jeff Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy clapping at that?
Not to mention that Jeff Foxworthy then says some of the dumbest shit. He's like, he says an obvious cheer me line when he says something like, what we really need is common sense. Woo! And it's like, right. You didn't say anything. You didn't tell a joke. That is the equivalent of going up on stage and telling people, hey guys, politicians, they're liars.
Politicians, am I right?
This is my thing. You do social commentary, you got to do it well, right? You have to. Otherwise, you just look like an idiot. It doesn't matter if what you're saying is a joke. Like, unless the joke is that you look like an idiot, but that was not the joke. That was supposed to be like that was supposed to be the everybody clap line, you know? And I mean, the little Trump reference was like, honestly, I think the reason it was one of the weakest and easiest criticisms you can give of Trump, and I think he did that for a very calculated reason. Because if Jeff Foxworthy does not support Trump, which I would be surprised if he didn't.
Well, that's where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
How is this audience not the audience that are Trump supporters?
Well, that's what I'm saying, but that's why I think that he went with that criticism, because it's the easiest joke to make about it, and no one's going to get offended by that joke about Trump. You know, like if he had gone up there and started making Trump jokes, I'd have been like, dude, that's bold, because your audience probably loves that guy.
Right.
But of course, no such bravery to be found.
No, he just talks about how he would make people not have to pick up dog shit anymore. And then he shows you how he used to get dog shit off his shoe. Lots
of poop. It was, yeah. Larry the Cable Guy was awful in this. They were both awful, but Jeff Foxworthy, I think, personally took the cake. What else? Is there something I'm missing about this that
No, this was just bad. Their Netflix has done a great job at giving a lot of stand-up comics the limelight. Netflix has created a lot of stand-up comedy specials for a lot of comedians. They picked the wrong duo. This was very bad. And my favorite was they had kind of a fun like interstitial. I guess not interstitial. It was like at the beginning and at the end. It was like bookends. at the beginning, like Jeff Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy get backstage and they look at their room and they're like, "This is what happened when you get paid millions of dollars. Get her done." And it's like a sink or whatever.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's just like them walking out into a car and they're like, "That was it." And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I know. You'll notice
Like,
a lot of comedy specials.
You're gonna
try to
do that? It's
like,
not even funny. Like, why would you even do that?
They try to do like documentary stuff in a lot of these like comedy specials, and this was just poor. This was just poorly executed. And we'll talk about something later that used that format a little better, I think. But yeah, I'll wrap this one up. So this special I liked less. I mean,
here's the other thing I'll say. Here's the other thing I'll say about this one, and why I thought Jeff Foxworthy's was better in this special was because it didn't feel as long. Larry the Cable Guy's portion of this special felt like an eternity.
That is true. That is
like,
true.
I don't know if it was actually longer or if it just felt longer, but it just felt like it went on forever.
I know. I think it's his delivery, is that he just seems like he's always on one long tangent. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it could be.
But
because the one thing I will credit to the last the Blue Comedy Tour, the movie soundtrack, is that all of the individual comics had a nice, succinct, short bit.
That's true.
They were each given like a very distinct amount of time between each of them, and then they all came together and had a nice ending segment where they were all given a little bit of time. So the actual flow of it felt really good, even though like it was all crap. But at least like it flowed very well. It flowed very quickly, and none of the comics were on there for so long. Whereas this was like, for whatever reason, Larry the Cable Guy just felt like it went on forever. It just never ended.
Yeah, for sure.
And they never. The other thing I'll say about this one, which I thought was odd, is they never came out together. Although you see them there together on the stage, I don't think that really happened. They came out together and they were like, "Hey, thanks everyone, goodbye." And then Larry threw his hat at somebody, and they probably are treasuring that forever because it says "Get her done" on it.
Yeah.
So
Get her done. That's my recommend. Yeah, 2 out of 10 again. I said I like this more than the last one. I don't actually know, to be honest. This one I had to sit down and watch. The other one I could listen to, so I was doing other things while listening to it, and maybe that did definitely make this one feel like it dragged on longer. I don't know. But I don't feel like their bits were as outwardly annoying. It doesn't matter. They're both fucking awful. No, do not watch. Again, some people think this is ironically funny. I definitely think it's mockable, but watching this is not an enjoyable experience, in my humble opinion. How about you?
I give this a 2. I gave the other one a 3 just so I could give this a 2. Do not watch this. If you do nothing else, do not watch this.
Yeah. That is the recommendation. I recommend that you do not watch this.
Do not get her done.
Definitely not. And with that, I think, do we want to move on here?
I don't care who you are. This was not funny and will never be funny.
I don't care who you are. That's unfunny right there. That's unfunny. All right, well, we'll move on, right?
Here's your sign.
Okay, so I recommended to Steven 3 comedies, the only 3 comedy specials by comedian Bo Burnham. Bo Burnham is a young comedian, actually holds the record for being the youngest comedian to have a special on Comedy Central, I believe. And I think it might have been Words, though it might have been something before that. The 3 specials are, the first one is Words. This was in 2010. Bo Burnham's like a musical comic. He came up on YouTube writing songs like My Whole Family and I don't know, a couple others that I'm not remembering right now. And so his act is very much a mix of stand-up and like musical comedy and songs at his piano and whatever else. And with that, Steven, what did you think of Bo Burnham's Words?
So I'll keep coming back to this one, actually, as we move through the specials to give some additional thoughts. But
I understand that, yeah.
But just talking about it as it is, Um, so Bo Burnham's style is a lot of quick jokes, a lot of quick gags in a lot of places. And as you mentioned, he's kind of a musical comic, so a lot of the times there's music wrapped into that. But for a lot of the bits, and it doesn't happen so much in this one from what I remember, but for a lot of his bits, it's like super quick and like completely completely derails your expectation.
Oh yeah, that's definitely.
And then it's like on to the next thing.
Yeah, that's this special possibly more than the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about some of the things on this one, I thought he has a one of the tracks on this is called Ironic.
Mm-hmm.
And that one I liked a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about things that happen that are ironic, much like the Alanis Morissette song. But he uses a really good actual examples of irony.
Yeah, but what is it? I rescued a child from overseas from child labor factories, and on their first birthday, I took them to Build-A-Bear Workshop.
Yeah,
that's yeah. There's good jokes in that song. That's probably one of the better songs in the special, I would say, for sure.
The sterile pull-out couch I thought was funny. Yeah, so I would say from this one specifically, I thought that, again, I'll probably go back to this one as we talk through the specials. I thought this one was the weakest.
Oh yeah.
You could definitely tell that he was still kind of understanding his voice and understanding what these specials were becoming and what they are. This is very early in his career, and you mentioned that he came up from YouTube. Those were all independent songs, right?
Yeah.
So having to create a large scale album where you're creating some transition between these things and you have an actual kind of somewhat story to tell, you could tell that this was he was still kind of learning how to do that in his way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think in my opinion, I agree, this is the weakest special, and I don't think the special is all that special. I think a lot of his jokes are okay. There's only a couple that are really funny. There's the haikus section, which is brilliant.
Yeah, that's really good.
But a lot of this was so, I don't know. It's like he had this problem early on. This is what you see in a lot of his YouTube songs, is he made these songs, and his jokes are very much this way too, where he just he shoved so many jokes in so fast that if you were catching the jokes, it makes you feel really smart. But the problem is it's very difficult to catch everything he's saying in one viewing, especially for anyone watching the show live.
Yeah, you could actually tell in this album, because it is a live recording.
You were listening to the album?
Yeah, I was listening to the album.
Okay, because I've seen the album and the show. Did you watch the show for the other two though, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So for this one, I guess I should have.
There wasn't much visual. There are much more visual gags in the next two, anyway. So this one's fine to just listen to.
Yeah. So for this one, I listened to the album. You could tell at this point the audience a lot of the times did not really know how to react.
Yeah. Especially during that Shakespeare bit.
Yeah.
They were very confused.
They were very confused.
And it's like, you could say, oh, they're just dumb and they don't get it. But it's like, no, he's saying these things so quickly that you have to like break it down to even catch his jokes in this segment. Which, I mean, it's a decent way of delivery, but it just doesn't really work for this kind of format, I feel like. And that same thing with the song Words, for example, which I've never cared for. He does this rap where it's just nonstop puns and gags, but it's like, it's too much. It is way too much. Now, thankfully, other songs like Ironic and some other ones is like, I think he has a better flow, a better delivery with what he's saying so that you can catch the jokes. There's better comedic timing.
Yeah, he has two songs on here that on the album had studio recording versions, Words, and Oboe. And I don't really think either of those are that special.
Yeah, no, they're not.
I did like Ironic. I did like his one-man shows bit. I thought that was pretty funny. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, the haikus one. Mm-hmm. Also, he starts to get into his that like super quick playing with expectations, quick jokes. One of the ones I wrote down here is nobody asks where are all the Sour Patch parents.
Yeah,
which I thought was pretty good.
I love. I do. One of the Shakespeare. There's like 2 Shakespeare bits here. One of them is where he has if Shakespeare wrote a porn, and that is actually a very funny segment. And then he goes into like Shakespeare. I don't even remember he just says a bunch of bullshit in the next part.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I want to call out from this show though is
Christian hell. Hitler was there, and so were all the Jews.
Yeah. So it was really awkward. He does that rant song too, which is like a rap over a really bad garage band beat, but the rap is cool. And he actually tells a lot of good jokes in there that I enjoyed. A lot of good commentary in that one about Catholicism. I liked that bit. But the one song here that
one thing quickly, what I'll say, one thing, and this happens in a lot of his bits, but a lot of his humor is incredibly depressing and self-deprecating.
Yeah. So can we get into the best part of the show?
Yeah, let's do it.
Art is dead.
Yep.
Oh my God. This is the first time. So Bo Burnham does a really great job of blending comedy with not only like real legitimate points, but I think like I want to just say depression and self-hatred. Like, it really is that bad. And it's like a lot of his songs continue in this format where like it's the kind of thing where you could be laughing one second and like actually sort of get teary in the next.
Yeah.
And I love stuff like that. It's probably why I like him so much.
And he pushes it really far too.
Mm-hmm. But in this show, the one hint you get of that is Art is Dead, which he intros that song by saying, "This song isn't funny at all, but it helps me sleep at night." And then and there's like a joke or two in the song. It's not like a completely serious song, but holy shit, it is brilliant. Like, it is one of his best songs, if not his best song. It is absolutely brilliant. And and it's the first time you get the impression that he actually hates the fact that he lives the privileged lifestyle that he lives, which is probably why nowadays he said he probably isn't going to do another comedy show. Like, I genuinely think he hated doing them because he felt like he didn't deserve what he was being given from doing these shows, which he gets into in later specials. But in this song, that's like the whole point of the song.
Yeah, he gets really into it in one of them. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. But here it's like it's just, oh my God, it's just such a, I don't know, it really hits me. I think it's fantastic. And it's the one point in this special that I think makes the whole special worth it, really, because the rest of this stuff's just kind of okay. That moment is sheer brilliance. I don't know if you have anything else to say about that song or the special in general.
No, I think that really sums up this one. I think he was still kind of gathering his voice here.
Yeah, definitely.
And it gets better from here.
So, score and recommendation for this?
For this one, I think I'd probably put it at about probably right in the middle, a 5. I think he has some good bits here. He's getting his voice. He has some good songs, but in general, I felt like this was definitely the weakest of the bunch.
Yeah,
and I don't know if I would directly recommend this one. I think that his other ones, we'll get into it, but I think his other ones are probably a better overall experience.
Yeah. I'll one up you and give it a 6 because I do think I like this more than I dislike this. And Art is Dead is so good that bumps it up for sure. And they're good jokes. I don't think there's anything here that like made me like cringe or anything. But it's just kind of whatever. And songs like Words and Oboe, it's just like it's whatever. But yeah, this is an okay special. It's fine. It's a decent little start. I would recommend it after you've seen the other 2. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll move on to his 2013 special, which he released for free on YouTube, actually, which any of you can go watch after this easily. If you don't even have to have Netflix. And that's all I'll say about it. You can go ahead and start with this one.
Okay, so this is where things get crazy. Because I cannot, so between this and Make Happy, I cannot even imagine the amount of time that went into the creation of these specials, because his musical timing and his musical cues and his stage cues are all so precise that I have to imagine the amount of choreography and precision that's required, especially, and I don't remember if it's this one, but in one of these two, there's like a part where like he's talking to just like the sides of the stage and steam is coming out of the stage, right?
That's in the next special. Let's try to try not to get it mixed up, but I see what you're saying.
Okay.
For sure.
But this was the one, right, where he like drops his bottle, but he does it on purpose, and the song goes, and this.
Oh.
It's just like those little moments are just like so well, and the whole thing is like that. There's some song that's probably transitioning, like him talking about how awkward it is to move from one portion of the stage to the other.
Yeah.
It's just all really great, and there's so many quick gags here too. Like I mentioned, like his water bottle falling over. But the other thing I'll say here is the intro to this special is really good.
Oh my god.
Not the little, like, I think there's like was it this one? I think it was this one where he's like a kid and he's like talking to his mom.
Yeah.
Not that. No, the actual intro to the comedy special.
Yeah, the actual live intro.
Is super good.
Oh my god, it's
like
all mimed and
it's all mimed. The part where it gets into it like breaks down and it's like awkwardly long stare or something, and he's just looking at someone in the audience.
Him shooting the fucking unicorn. Holy shit. Amazing. The only thing I don't like about that intro is I think the Godzilla bit's kind of dumb, and not like in a funny, not like in a funny way. I mean, it's whatever, but that's probably the one criticism I have of that intro. But other than that, oh my god, it is so good.
Again, this special is super self-deprecating, at times very depressing. He pushes the awkward level to a new degree too, where it's like the audience doesn't know how to react, but now they know what they're in for, so they find it funny. But you can tell there are times when he just really pushes some of the envelope there.
And not to mention an entire bit where he mimes a masturbation session and the preceding guilt. This is my favorite of the three. Can I just say that?
Yeah, no, I will say that too.
The songs in this one are so top notch.
The songs are so good.
Sad is the funniest shit.
Yeah, and I really, really like Left Brain, Right Brain. I think Left Brain, Right Brain might be my favorite just period of his stuff between these three.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's so good. It is so good. And it's so introspective too. Like, that's the thing about this special. I don't know if this one's as depressing as the next one. No, it definitely isn't. But like, there's a lot of like, there's that Left Brain, Right Brain is all about his internal creative process. Like, he talks a lot about just performing and being a comedian, like, more than anything else, which is good because that's what he knows. And so, including the finale of this, where he plays 3 sound snippets of like random people who think they know him, and then turns it into a song. Like this really like it's almost it's probably really cathartic for him to perform. I would assume, you know, like it's almost like that song is just for him. Because what is the audience going to get out of that? You know, it's like they don't have experience with that. And it's what a killer outro to it too. My favorite song is From God's Perspective.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
From God's Perspective is the best example of what I was talking about with the last show, of balancing comedy and stuff that's actually genuinely profound and kind of depressing. That whole final bit of that song where he says no one entertains the thought that maybe God does not believe in you. You know, all those, oh man, that is such a great song.
Yeah, and again, I mentioned it. The use of timing in this show is impeccable. He has just really great bits that are just like super quick. He basically does not transition anything, and he makes the jokes out of his not transitioning anything on multiple occasions, which is good. Also, the use of the stage and the lighting, all really great, like physical comedy routines, and then also just really great, like, okay, so for instance, in Left Brain, Right Brain, he's in the center of the stage and he's using between blue and red light to switch between the two sides of his brain. Mm-hmm. And again, I will repeat, the amount of time and practice that must have had to go into nailing that is just insane.
The timing is precise. You know?
Super precise.
And it's just like, oh my god. And the time, and it's like, there's also, okay, one bit I want to call out. That Andy the Frog bit is pure brilliance. That is the funniest, that might be the funniest bit he does in this show, is that Andy the Frog story. That thing is amazing. Also, he does another poetry session. This time, I'd say I like this way more than even the haikus bit in the last show. The poetry session is just fucking great. God, Repeat Stuff.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about Repeat Stuff. That's a great song where he mocks. Stuff. He basically makes he creates a pop love song that, you know, a satirical pop love song, essentially, including one bit where in the chorus he breaks down into yelling that he is a vessel of Satan and 666.
Yeah. It's Repeat Stuff. This is, I think about this so often. It's so hilarious to me. I actually think it was a portion of one of his very early YouTube videos that bled into, I believe it's this song. Is this the one where he talks about creating a love song and he opens it by going, Jason Derulo?
Yes.
Yeah, that is so good.
I know.
So funny.
I know.
Just a quick bit that is just really, really good. So you talked about it, but there's a whole section where he's just jerking off on stage, and it's called and it goes on for super long, and then at the end he says that was called beating off in A minor, but not a felony.
The key, not the felony.
The key, not the felony.
His showmanship,
which is just like, that whole section really sums up to me like what's so good about his humor, where he's playing off your expectations, he's pushing that awkward envelope where like clearly the audience doesn't know how to react, all for literally like a 20-second throwaway joke.
Yeah, I know.
At the end.
I know.
Which is great.
Oh my lord. This special is near perfect. There are very few gags that I don't like. There are a few. There's a poetry bit about being a straight Tetris piece that was so bad, and he was like aware it was bad, but that didn't make it funny. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like that was just.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
That was just kind of bad. And the only other thing the lizard Godzilla part. There's also a bit where he kind of goes through phrases he thinks no one said, which isn't like the best part of the show. It's funny, but it's not the best part of the show. But man, every song is great. #deep, I didn't even mention. Fucking love that. I love every song. What Did I Do Last Night? Oh my god, that is the best example of him playing off of your expectations that I've ever seen. You know, like he goes into like this hype beat. What did I do last night? I cried myself to sleep. Oh my god. This is brilliant. I absolutely adore this special.
And it's so fast too, right? Because he does something like that, and then boom, on to the next thing. Like he doesn't even let it breathe.
Yeah, but the timing's better though. That's the difference. The timing between this show and the last one is better. He was able to do this a lot better than last time because everybody laughed at like every joke, as opposed to last time where he didn't give anybody time to laugh. And it's like there is a mastery of showmanship. He is such a great showman. It's so theatrical and experimental even for a comedy show. Like there are not stand-up comics. I mean, there are, but it's like there are not a lot of stand-up comics who are as just overly meta and well-timed and like using the lighting and the staging and everything in quite the way he does. It's almost a theater act.
Yeah, it really is.
And that's all I have to say. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is legitimately one of my favorite routines. I had seen this before watching, so this was kind of a rewatch for me. I've seen this one a couple times now, and every time I just pick out even like just little throwaway jokes in some of these songs that every time it's just so funny to me.
Yeah.
So with that, I give this probably a 9. I mean, this is, to me, a near perfect routine. The comedy is great. The jokes are great. The timing is, as I mentioned, just crazy. It's insane how well choreographed this thing is and how well choreographed it needs to be so it stays on track and on time. because it is really a timing based show. Yeah, so I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I'll give it a 9.5 because I want to give it a 10, but I can't because I don't think every joke is good. But oh my god, it is damn near close. This is incredible. You can watch it on YouTube. It's not even that long. It feels way shorter than it is too. It's just oh my god. I can't recommend this enough. This is definitely my favorite comedy special, period. And I've watched it a lot. Yeah, I think we will move on to the final special, which was a Netflix special. Similarly to We've Been Thinking. Not to compare them, because that's the only point of comparison that can be made. Make Happy, released in 2016. It could end up being his last comedy special. I've seen him say that it may be. I don't know. But this is the final one as of right now. It's the most recent special. And I don't think there's anything else I need to say, so I will pass it on to you.
So this one... This one is a little weird to me. I like this one. I don't think I like it as much as the previous one. But I do think he at this point has definitely found his voice. He knows what he's doing. Again, it's very timing based, very depressing. In fact, much more depressing than even the last one. We'll get there.
I don't think the last one was depressing. That's the thing.
Yeah, there were some.
There were moments. It was the same
flashes.
thing as Words. There was Art is Dead. And in the last one, there was like moments in songs where he took them in a serious direction, like hashtag deep and from God's perspective. But, you know, I think this is the point where that boils over.
Yeah. So I'll go through this one. There's a lot of use of tragedy here. We'll talk about that, but I'll go through from the top. I love the way this thing opens. It's really funny. He does like a call and response routine.
Yeah.
And it ends with him saying, he goes, "Ve," getting, for whatever reason, I don't remember how it happens, but he does that.
No, Salt and Vi, and then he has them complete
yeah, Salt and Vi.
Yeah.
And then he expects a response to the audience, and he goes, "You're all racist."
Also, don't forget when he asks them if they like smoking weed, and then a police siren start. In the...
Yeah.
Great. It's a good
really
intro.
good.
I do not think this intro comes close to the intro of What, though.
No, definitely not.
It's solid, but it is not that good.
Yeah.
Which is actually, that's actually how I describe the entire show.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I wrote down on this one is it starts to get a little samey.
It does, for
right?
sure.
Like, he definitely was trying to call back to his last special, which is a great thing to call back to. He had found his voice there. It's a really good special, but you could tell that a lot of these were just kind of more of the same.
Yeah. Think about the jump What was from Words. This is not that jump. This is very much staying in the same lane of What, you know. But it's just that the material just isn't as good on the whole. You know,
Yeah.
Not to say that there aren't moments of brilliance here, because I think there are, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But, you know, just as an entire comedy special, the jokes aren't really as good. The songs aren't really as good. Really everything. The only thing that may be a little better is I think the lighting effects are a little more impressive this time around, but that was probably just a result of the stage he was at. That's really it. Well, almost it, but we'll talk.
So talking about some of the tracks on here, I like Straight White Male.
Yeah, Straight White Male is hilarious. That's probably... Okay, that's my second favorite song from this special. It's my favorite like piano song from this special for sure.
Yep. So it's like hashtag first world problems.
Yeah,
really
but
good. And then he ends it by saying, "It was funny because it was all ironic and I didn't mean any of it."
Yeah. No, it's great. It's a great like sort of he makes a mockery of white people who feel they're oppressed. Essentially, that's the gag, or straight white men anyway. I love the final line of this thing. We used to have all the money and land, and we still do, but it's not as fun now.
Yeah.
oh yes, fantastic song. I love that song.
I like when he does the "I'm a little teapot" thing.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Oh my god, that fucking thing where the hey, but like the lights sing to him, you know, and they have him repeat after them.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that's one of the best bits in the entire thing. Because by the time
that's really good.
oh man, yes, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I guess it counts as a song.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of his whole thing, right? It's just like this little throwaway thing. It happens over the course of like 30 seconds and it's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
And in that one specifically, they have him repeat after him and they have him call himself gay or something, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, which is
this one has "Kill Yourself" on it, which I feel like is the most well-known song. And you know, I feel like this song could have been done better because I think the concept here is hilarious. He's making like a motivational pop ballad, like a Katy Perry "Roar." He mentions, but instead of like having a motivational speech, he tells everyone to kill themselves in the chorus. Which is funny, but the problem is that the actual song itself isn't really structured like one of those songs. Like, only kind of, you know? It's like, it's the same thing with like Oh Bo from the first special. He was trying to make a parody of a hip-hop song, but it sounds nothing like a hip-hop song that would actually be made.
yeah.
So that, but I think "Kill Yourself's" a funny song, but I just think that joke could have been delivered maybe a little better because he ends up just explaining the joke in the middle of the song, and it's like you wouldn't have had to have done that if it was just a little clearer. I feel like,
Yeah.
but it's funny anyway.
He has some callbacks here to some of his early stuff that he brings in. Some of the things here are some of his Vine bits, actually, that made their way into this special, as well as the country song, I think, is a pretty well-known one, too. And I'm pretty sure that comes from... that's an early recording, also. But that's a good song. I'm pretty sure.
I don't believe so. I mean, maybe, but pandering is funny. Yeah, pandering's good.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's good. I've heard that one a couple times, and I like that one. So, like, for instance, one of his Vine bits is when he talks about continuity errors, and then in the recording, he changes shirts.
Yeah.
And that's a good one. He also has a fake sponsor from Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
Yeah. Cheetos are for pussies. Flaming Cheetos are not for pussies. That is.
Yeah, and then he goes, "They're not sponsoring me. I'm just trying to get them to."
Yeah. I just think that everything here feels a bit less. What am I looking for? It just feels like there's a bit less energy in this one, I think.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's not as much passion behind it too, which he commentates on. Like, that's almost the entire theme of the special, but it's like it does hinder the show. Another thing we didn't mention, I enjoy that breakup bit. That is great. You know, they eat a dick.
Oh, yeah.
They eat a dick. Oh my god, that is great.
Yeah, that's.
But
really
again,
good.
it's like it just feels like it does sort of feel like a rehash of Left Brain, Right Brain. I mean, the material's not the same, but the type of song is almost identical. It's the same sort of thing. Where he's playing two characters and doing a pantomime, and that's the thing. Is like a lot of this just feels like a new version of What, but not as strong. But
yeah, I agree.
The one thing I want to say,
and then we get into the end of this album.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay.
Is that where you're going?
Yeah.
So it starts with him doing a parody of the Nike rant that Kanye does, where basically he just talks about how his stupid ass shirts aren't selling enough.
Except he makes the entire thing practically about how he can't fit his hand inside of a Pringles can.
He can't fit his hand in Pringles.
It's not the funniest joke in the world at first, but he fucking, oh my god. He transitions. We're kind of spoiling the comedy, so please go see it. Please watch this if you don't want that. But he then transitions and pretends like he's over it and talks about wanting to have a daughter so that he can have someone around the house who can fit their hands in a Pringles can.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's all the brilliant thing about this is that I like this entire song because that first half is very funny, and I'll let you get to what you were trying to get to. I think with the song.
Yeah, so then it really gets pretty depressing. He kind of declines into this like he still has his bit about burritos and Pringles, but he starts talking about how he can't handle the fame and he can't handle being watched and having all these people looking at him and having these fans. And then it transitions into a song about, and I would argue that it's not funny. It is just legitimately depressing. A song about how, like, is he really happy?
Yeah.
Like, everyone's there and they laughed and maybe they didn't laugh, but it didn't matter. Because like he's doing this for so long and it's like maybe his dad was right. Maybe he shouldn't have done any of this.
And this is we should mention this is only in the special. This wasn't on. If it was on stage, what you see in the Netflix special is like recorded. He goes like out the room and ends up in like this room with a piano and he sings this song. And it's like, oh god, I love the one. I just love the combination of these two final songs here. It is great. I mean, can't handle this. Can't handle this as one of his best. And I love the way it's staged too. I love the way they use lighting on this part of the show. And yeah, it's just like it gets really heavy, and then it just stays heavy. That's the thing, is no other show was quite like that. You know, We Think You Know You had a very like personal bent, but it was clearly cathartic. You know, like he was like, it was almost like by making that song, he was like getting one on the people who treated him, who you know, behaved like that. But there's nothing cathartic about this ending. It's just sad. Although I guess
after the song, he gets up, opens the door, and it's like a dog, and I'm assuming it's supposed to represent his family, and he like goes back home to them essentially.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, I guess that is the one sweet angle of the ending. But I think that if this is truly to be his final show, that ending is perfect.
Yeah, I agree,
and I love it for that. So I think we're done. So I assume we are. So if you want to wrap it up.
Yeah. So again, I would say that I don't think this one was as strong as What. I think that this one, we mentioned it a couple times, but this one was clearly trying to be What again.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some funny stuff on here. I just did not think it was as strong as his second set. So I would probably give this one I would probably still go up as high as maybe an 8, I think. Because I still did really enjoy this, and I do think there are a lot of really good bits on here, and I do think it's worth watching. But comparatively, I do think it is the weaker special. I think it's still a lot better than Words, Words, Words. And if it really is his last show, I think it's a good way to go out. So I would definitely recommend this one as well.
I agree with most of what Steven said, but my score is actually a bit lower. I would give it a 7. Because I think this is a funny special. I don't think it's hilarious, and I don't think it's as brilliant or as profound as the last. Well, not the. Yeah, I guess the last two, because I mean, I don't think there's anything here that speaks to me as much as Art is Dead does, or From God's Perspective, you know. But so
I would ask this before we sign off.
Oh yeah.
Do you think anyone does what he does between this and What?
I haven't seen it, but I don't want to make that comment authoritatively because I haven't seen enough comedians.
Yeah, I have not seen anyone who really does this thing. He has such a unique presence and such a unique routine that I think that's one of the reasons why What is so good to me. It's that it feels like it really came out of nowhere. It's a deconstruction of a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Parody and stage performance, and
he takes apart the entire act of stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And also seeing that he came from the internet, it makes a lot of sense because his humor is the internet's humor, you know, this extremely ironic and self-aware brand of meta humor. He takes that to the stage and uses the stage to do it in a unique way, you know? And again, he's super introspective. for comedy show, these are very experimental. Not in the sense that they're like, you know, avant-garde, but in the sense that he's just experimenting with what you can do in a stand-up comedy show. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of stand-up comedians who just scoff at his show, which I've seen him comment on before. So I think there are. It's like you know, it's very much like it's a very new age kind of comedy, a very modern kind of comedy, but it's brilliant. He's my favorite comedian, I would say, stand-up comedian anyway. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of his songs that are live are like his piano songs anyway, are like genuinely good songs on top of being funny. Do you agree with that? Like,
yeah, definitely.
Like, especially the ones that take a more serious angle, like Art is Dead. It's just a genuinely phenomenal song. Now, I think that the studio recordings that I heard on like the album versions of some of these are fucking terrible. And a lot of his songs on YouTube I never really cared for either. But the songs that he plays on the piano in What and Make Happy, as well as Can't Handle This. I mean, I guess not just on the piano, but whatever. They're really great. He's just got a ton of talent, and I know he directed a movie recently that I actually want to see. And I hope he, you know, keeps doing interesting stuff. Yes, I recommend Make Happy, but watch What first. I would say watch What, then watch What Make Happy, and if you liked them a lot, you can watch Words. Is that a good way to sum that up?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. Okay, so I have a recommendation for you. Actually, wait, no, I'm doing this wrong. Steven, I screwed it up. Steven, it's supposed to be your turn because you went first. So you get what do you recommend to me, Steven?
Okay. I recommend to you the movie Die Hard with Bruce Willis. That's all I'll say about it.
Okay. And I recommend an album. The album is by Avenged Sevenfold, and it is the self-titled album. So it is Avenged Sevenfold by Avenged Sevenfold. And that's my recommendation to you. Avenged Sevenfold is a metal band. This album came out in 2000. Hang on a second.
In a year?
Hold on. Hold on. This album came out in Google, you son of a bitch. 2007. This album came out in 2007. Heavy metal album. And that's all I'm going to say about it. And I had the wrong screen up when I said that, but it doesn't even matter. So we do have something to say. We're changing our schedule. I know, I'm sure you all really appreciate that, seeing as we gave you a schedule, didn't stick to it, and are now changing it. Thing is, even though we're changing our schedule, there's still a chance that for the next show we may not be able to meet it, but we both assume, right, Steven, that after that point we should be able to meet it pretty consistently for a while.
Yeah.
So our new schedule is Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's still the same time, it's just on a different day. So Sundays instead of Mondays. And we probably should also mention that this episode is so late because Steven was really busy. And we're hoping that the next show can come out on time, I think.
And still every fortnight.
Right. Every other week. Yeah. Did I say every Sunday? That's not true. Every other week on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay?
Yep. So we will see you again September 9th.
Yeah. Mark your calendars, boys. Mark your boys and girls.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize.
Put it in your Rolodex.
Yes. And I think that's all we have for today. So those were our thoughts. Those were our recommendations. Get wrecked.